Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I am so happy to be here tonight amongst fellow conservatives. And, interestingly, a lot of times people ask me, is it really worth all you have to go through to run for president? To have people savage your name, your reputation, attack your family, do all of those things? And the answer is no. Not if you're doing it for yourself. But the answer is a resounding yes if you're doing it for we the people. And that's really the reason for it. I really had no intention of entering the political arena, quite frankly. And my wife and I were looking forward to a very peaceful retirement. And anything but that has happened. But interestingly enough, when people started saying that I should run for president, I just thought it was pretty ridiculous, and I just said, if you ignore it, it'll go away. But it didn't go away. Every place I went, and I was doing a lot of speaking, there were people out with "Run, Ben, Run" signs, and then after that, then I started getting all these petitions, 5,000 petitions a week. I had hundreds of thousands of petitions. I could barely even get into my office. And I finally said, Lord, you know this was not on my bucket list. And all the pundits say it's absolutely impossible, can't do it. You got to be a member of the political class. You can't raise money. You can't do any of those things, all of which comforted me, by the way. And then I said, Lord, if you really want me to do this, then you have to open the doors. If you open the doors, I will walk through them. And he opened the doors, so I'm walking through them. Basically, that's what it is. The thing that really has disturbed me the most is recognizing what's happening to our nation. This is a nation that's supposed to be of, for, and by the people, not of, for, and by the government. And that's the reason that I was so vehemently opposed to the so-called Affordable Care Act. Not because it's not affordable, and not because it doesn't care for people, but the reason was because it fundamentally changed the relationship between the people and the government. Instead of it being about the people, the government came along and says, we don't care what you people think. We're shoving this down your throat, and if you don't like it, too bad. That is a problem. And, if we accept that, then it is just the beginning of the fundamental change in relationship with the government now at the pinnacle dictating to us, which is why we, the people, must stand up for who we are and what we believe in this country. One of the biggest problems I think that we have encountered is that the secular progressives have beaten down the people who have common sense, which are the vast majority of Americans. They still have traditional values, and they still think with their brains. That means, like if they don't have money, they don't spend it, things like that. But that has gone out of the window a long time ago, and the people with common sense have been beaten into submission by the secular progressives, who really don't care whether you agree with them or not, as long as you sit down and shut up. And I say it's time to stand up and shout out. You don't have to do that, America is an amazing place. And there are a lot of people who like to denigrate our nation and say that we're the source of all the evil in the world and that we're not exceptional. you know, if we were so bad, why are so many people trying to get in here and nobody trying to escape? You know, obviously it's a pretty nice place. And the real question is, can we keep it? Because I believe that there is an American way. There is an American dream. Have you noticed that there's no other dream? What other country has a dream? Other countries have nightmares, but nobody else has a dream, you know? And, and it is something that we need to be very careful to preserve. We are in the process of giving away our nation, of giving away all of our values and principles so that we can be politically correct. And I think that that is a major problem. It's the reason that I hate political correctness with a vengeance, because there were so many people who gave up everything, including their lives, so that we could have freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, all of our other freedoms. We cannot give those away. And this was such a land of dreams for me as a youngster. I dreamed of becoming a doctor. That was the only thing I ever wanted to do. Skip right over policeman and fireman. Went straight to doctor. I even liked going to the doctor's office, so it tells you I was strange. I mean, I would gladly sacrifice a shot just so I could smell the alcohol swabs. And you know, if I could wear the stethoscope and listen to somebody's heart, I mean, that was like the major event of the year. But you wouldn't have thought that I would have been successful in my quest. There were so many obstacles along the way. And after my parents got divorced, you know, we lived in dire poverty. We had to move in with relatives. And it's interesting because a lot of people on the left like to criticize me. They say, Carson grew up in poverty. He probably benefited from some government programs, and now he wants to withdraw all the programs. And that's hypocritical. Well, first of all, that is nothing but a blatant lie. And that's what they have a tendency to do because they want to drive wedges between people. I have no desire to remove all the safety nets for people who need them. What I do have a desire to do is to provide a ladder of opportunity so that people can climb out of dependency and become part of America. And you know, that's what real conservatism is. You know, the progressives tried to paint conservatives as heartless, uncaring people. But I'll tell you who's heartless, uncaring. They're the people who pat everybody on their head and say, there, you poor little thing. I'm going to take care of all your needs, give you food stamps and housing subsidies and health care, and it makes them dependent on other people. That is not compassion. What that is taking advantage of people and making them subject to you. And this is what we've got to change in this country. You know, right now in more than 30 states, you can make more from accepting government benefits than you can from working a minimum wage job. And some people say, well, of course I'm going to accept the benefits. Why would I want to work if I can make just as much or more by not working? Well, you see, this is what has changed in our country. Because years ago, it would have been a no-brainer. People would have taken the minimum wage job, recognizing that they would gain skills, relationships, they would be able to climb the ladder, and they would be much better off. That's called the can-do attitude. That's what made America into a great nation. And now we're in the process of trading that for the what can you do for me attitude. And are there people in our society who are indigent, who are downtrodden, who are disadvantaged? Without question, there are. But the people who should take care of those people are us. we the people, not the government. It is not the government's job. And no, historically, we have done a very good job of taking care of those in need in our society. Starting in about the 20s, Woodrow Wilson, started getting involved in everything, his socialist bent, and it kept progressing. By the time we got to the 60s with LBJ, the government was saying, we are going to eliminate poverty. The war on poverty, the Great Society. How'd that work? $19 trillion later, we have 10 times more people on food stamps, more welfare, poverty, broken homes, out of wedlock births, crime, incarceration. Everything is not only worse, it is much worse. And that's because it is not the government's job. They don't do that very well. And they need to read the Constitution. That would help us a great deal if they would do that. Now it could be that they did read the Constitution and they got confused when they read the preamble and it said one of the duties of the government is to promote the general welfare. And they thought that meant to put everybody on general welfare. But obviously it's not what it meant. And the government, unfortunately, and I'm not an anti-government person, I'm an anti-big government, inefficient government, dominating government person. That's not what it was supposed to be. And irresponsible government. And I got to tell you, if I were in charge right now of America and I wanted to destroy it, I'll tell you what I would do. I would drive wedges between all of the people. I would have them all hating each other. A war on women, race wars, income wars, age wars, religious wars, anything I could do to get them fighting each other and thinking they were enemies. And then I would destabilize the financial foundation of the country. I would just raise the debt to unimaginable heights. I would be inviting people in here from other countries, putting them on all kind of benefits. I would be putting all the people here on benefits. I'd have everybody on food stamps, everybody on SSI, disability. I would be giving people free telephones. I would be telling people that you can have free college for everybody. I would just get everybody so dependent upon the government, and then I would destroy the military. I would have the smallest Navy since 1917, the smallest Air Force since 1940. I would gut the personnel through the sequester. I would have everybody depressed, have people retiring early. I would tell the veterans how wonderful they are and do absolutely nothing for them so that 22 of them were committing suicide every day. I would do nothing to fix the critical infrastructure of the nation, particularly the electric grid, putting us at enormous risk. I would get us out of the space program, knowing how many innovations came out of the space program, including your cell phone and many other modern conveniences, and also recognizing that in the future, he who controls space will control the earth. Those are the things that I would do. Now, any resemblance to what's going on now, I'm sure it's coincidental, But doesn't that give you a good indication of what we have to do, we the people, in order to solve our problems? Because what I have discovered since I've gotten into this political arena, which, by the way, is a very slimy place, and there are all kind of special interest groups and all kind of nefarious things going on. And it's one of the reasons that I absolutely refuse to accept money from special interest groups and billionaires who want to influence me. Will not do it. I tell them to go jump in the lake. And, but the reason that I can continue to go on until the people realize that they should be voting for me and not for other people is because we the people have decided to support my campaign. So I don't have to worry about, begging people for money. And I would never do that as president either, because the only special interest group we should be interested in are the American people. And we have to understand that. We also have to understand that the political class, the pundits, and the media think that they have complete control of us. And in the past, they have. And I think it's getting close to the time when we need to shake them off and start thinking for ourselves. Because, they keep leading us. They keep leading us to the same place. And conservatives in particular, we need to understand that when they come and they say, you guys are people of such principle, and we admire you because you won't vote for somebody if you disagree with them on just this one thing. You'll sit at home like a person of integrity, and we admire you. And then they go and laugh at you, because we have got to get everybody to understand that when you don't vote, you are voting, but you're voting for them. And we can't afford to do that, because if we get another progressive president and they get 2, 3, or 4 Supreme Court picks, we're all going to have to find another country to live in. So rather than allow that to happen, and rather than to put our children in that position, we need to start thinking about what we're going to do. We also need to understand that unless we do the critical things, we're going to lose America. We have to change our tax code. We have to make it the kind of thing that encourages people rather than discourages people. And please, when you go home, look it up, bencarson.com, and read about our tax program. Forbes said it is the best, the most pro-growth. Several others have commended it also. We also have to get rid of all the unnecessary regulations. The regulations are killing us. And when you look at something like the Clean Power Plan, the EPA has said if we enact every aspect of the Clean Power Plan, it will lower the Earth's temperature by 0.05 degrees Fahrenheit in 85 years, at a cost of billions of dollars and millions of jobs. It makes no sense because it's a regulation that is based on ideology. We need to get rid of all the ideological regulations. Regulatory reform, tax reform, get that economic engine rolling again, and then reducing the size of this ridiculous government. 4.1 million federal employees. It makes no sense. Tens of thousands of them retire each year. Don't replace them. That's what you have to do. And then 645 federal agencies and sub-agencies. 645. They all have fat. I would call in the director of each one of them, and I would say, I want you to cut your budget by 2 to 3% or resign, whichever one is easier for you. And then I would say to them, when you cut it, you have to cut it in a way that the American people don't feel it. Because the last time this happened with the current administration, they were told to cut in a way that people felt it the most so that nobody would be asking for cuts again. There is so much excess there. And, having spent decades in the corporate world, sitting around boardroom tables, I learned a great deal about business and how efficiency works. And I can tell you that our government is very inefficient. A business run like our government wouldn't last for 1 week. And we have an obligation to give the people something that they can trust in. And this is what is lacking right now. There's no integrity. And I've encountered so much dishonesty, and people who are just ambitious, and people who will do anything, and they don't care about the American people. And what I'm going to say to end is this. Thomas Jefferson said that we would reach this point in our country, that where we would not be paying attention and keeping an eye on the government, and as a result, the government would do what all governments in the world naturally do. They grow, they metastasize, they infiltrate, and they dominate the people. But he said just before we turned into something else, the people of America would awaken, would recognize they were being manipulated, would stand up, and would retake control of America. I say now is the time to do that. Thank you very much.